A whole lot has been happening this past few weeks. First, we got the US government threatening to ban TikTok, which we're going to get into a lot in this episode. But I thought if we're going to talk about that, it can't just be about politics or policy. It also needs to be about how technology and culture are influencing each other and influencing us. So I figured if I was going to talk about that, I should bring on Jason Koebler, who is one of the founders of 404 Media. So we're going to talk about the TikTok ban in this episode, but we're also going to talk about other cultural and technology intersections. So we got Pornhub pulling out of Texas. We got a cop going to a kid's library to try to find books to ban. And we also have Shrimp Jesus. Now, Shrimp Jesus, that part's going to come at the end. Most of this is in order. It sounds weird, I know, but by the time we get to it, I promise it will make sense. And it is also, believe it or not, extremely important to understand. So let's just get right into it. Once again, with today's guest, Jason Koebler. Let's go. You didn't come here to hear me talk about shrimp. You came here to hear another person speak about shrimp. What up, Jason?
Am I here? Am I
You are
here?
here. You're in.
Here we go. Wow. Hello, hello.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Man, so for those who are not familiar with Jason of 404 Media, perhaps you could tell me about Jason and 404 Media.
Yeah. So I used to be the editor of Motherboard back at Vice. So while I was there, I went on your Twitch show many times and we worked on a lot of stuff together. So you and me go back quite a long ways. But about a little over 6 months ago, I started a new website with three other folks from Motherboard called 404 Media, which is a subscription reader funded reporting website. It's 404media.co and have sort of just continued writing about AI and social media and hacking and all the things that I used to cover at Vice, except now without the Vice overlords, more or less. And I guess no one is covering anything at Vice anymore. But yeah, we're having fun over there, and I'm really happy to see you again. I'm in LA too, so I know we've seen each other a couple times, but it's good to be back on the show.
Yeah, I was wearing the beanie that you gave me a little while ago, which I wish I had it right here. I don't. You all have merch. Let's show them the merch. Well, let's show them the website first. Let's show them what we're talking about. So 404, this is what it looks like right here. You have a merch section, and I have this beanie, and I wore it a couple times, and I think a couple people hit me. He's like, "Yo, do you work for
Sold out
404?"
beanie.
Sold out. Sold out. Sorry, can't have it. Limited edition. Yeah, winter is coming. Keep your ears warm. Good description. But yeah, nah. So we're gonna look at the site in more detail in just a little bit. But yeah, man, how's so you're running a site again? It's called 404 Media. Yeah, Anga was in town when I was wearing it. Yeah. 404 Media, and so Motherboard. Some people might not be familiar. I think most people here are familiar with Motherboard, but just in case, that was the tech vertical, I guess. Is that what we should say for Vice?
Yeah,
But
it was the
you did
technology website of Vice, and
more.
I was there. Yeah, I mean, I was always at Motherboard. I worked at Vice for 10 years, so I moved around a fair bit in terms of like what I was doing on a day to day, but I was always technically at Motherboard, but worked across Vice News, worked a
Mm,
little bit with studios, but Motherboard is like what I was doing. And yeah, I mean, Motherboard was a site for, I believe, 13 years, something like that, until, you know, things happened recently. Um, but sort of all along the way covered like privacy, AI, big tech in a way that was like not subservient to big tech and not obsessed with gadgets and doing reviews and stuff like that. It was way more tied to like how does technology impact people, and yeah, a lot of really good work through there. But now onto this.
Yo, and somehow I didn't even notice that was a hat. But yeah, man. So honestly, y'all been doing some pretty heavy stuff there, and yeah, there's a lot to talk about, and we don't have to talk a ton about Vice really, because it seems like that always happens at some point. Being the guest that I have here, but you've had honestly, I pulled up some articles from just the last 2 or 3 weeks. 404, no offense, your front page is completely unhinged.
It
Like,
is. It is. Sometimes I go through and I scroll through and I'm like, oh, these are good stories. And then I'm like, whoa, it's kind of all over the place. Like
it
there's
is.
um which I mean that's part of the design. It's like I think that we are hoping to delight and terrify readers by just like giving them stuff out of left field.
Yeah.
I think the way that we originally pitched it is like we really like to dive deep into different communities and surface what they're talking about. And so as we've grown, like our readers have started sending us stuff, and then we'll dive into like whatever they're interested in. So um, you know, our guiding light is like, is this interesting to us as journalists? We try not to like pigeonhole ourselves as only covering a specific thing. And so, yeah, there's only four of us, but I think you get like a pretty wide variety of stuff from us.
Yeah. So I sent you over a list of things I thought we should talk about today, and of course, posted it online or posted it on IG. And so, just on the docket for today, like I said, I think we're gonna be talking about to let y'all know what we're doing. There's a cop's body cam in an Idaho library. That one's pretty weird. Pornhub, of course, which I know you didn't write that one, but I figured you could talk about that a little bit. The TikTok ban and shrimp Jesus on Facebook, which just dropped today. Is that right?
Just dropped. Yeah.
Yeah.
You sent
So
me that. You sent me that list of stories, and I was just like, "Yeah, no problem." Like, I don't know. I didn't even bat an eye. I was just like, "Oh yeah, that is what we've been doing." But I guess sort of taken. I don't know. I've been in it. I guess if you just kind of like look at the list of stories, it's like, what the fuck?
yeah. Which again, very in some ways I think that's also very Vice, but yeah, I guess nothing wrong with that. But now it's very 404, so it makes sense. Um but yeah, man, so let's see. Let's start off easy. Let's start off easy with Pornhub. How about that? So this will be the thing that will get us kicked off of geez, I can't even say the name of the thing we're on. Twitch, if anything. So stream might end early. If it does, we'll restart it and come back. But yeah, let's get into it. So as Beatmaster mentioned, excellent headline. Pornhub pulls out of Texas. So this is one of Sam's pieces. So yeah, walk me through this. Also, Sam, by the way, should we shout out something Sam is doing? I don't fully know what's going on, but yeah, what's his podcast? What's happening?
So Samantha Cole has been covering porn on the internet, wrote a book about it, sort of like how porn drives technological innovation, and then also sort of like backlash, which you kind of get some of in this story we're about to talk about. But for the last few months, she's been working on a podcast with CBC, which is Canada's national broadcaster, about sort of like the history of Pornhub, its rise to power, so on and so forth. You know, Pornhub was owned by a company called MindGeek, which rebranded to a company called Alo, and they own like 10 of the largest porn websites on the internet. And I feel like a lot of journalists and publications sort of ignore porn because, either they're embarrassed or they don't want to write about it, or advertisers don't like it, or so on and so forth. And it's like the ALO group of sites are some of the largest websites in the world.
Yeah, that's
It's
what I was
like
gonna say.
porn.
Don't
I
they
don't have the numbers
move
in front of me,
most
but
of the
Pornhub is like,
traffic online? Period.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't
for a
know,
lot
even
of
if
it.
you just like go to Pornhub and click any random video, it's like many of them have hundreds of millions of views. It's like we're talking about like a huge portion, like a huge portion of the internet's traffic runs through these sites, and they're every bit as like important of a platform as like a Facebook or a Twitter, but they're often not reported on in the same way.
Right.
Obviously, they have like different incentives and different content types and so on and so forth. But when it comes to like ad tech, payment platforms, like VR adoption, content moderation, especially like deepfakes and AI, it's like these sites are very often where people experiment with these technologies first, and then they kind of get first crack at how to moderate this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and not to rehash some of the conversations that we had on the old stream with Samantha. I mean, yo, a lot of technology, period, going back to, the days of VHS and videotapes and stuff like that, um, got really first usage and first really mainstream adoption, if we can call it mainstream adoption, I think we can, in the porn industry. And, DVD adoption of DVDs, adoption of videotapes, adoption of what, if you would have asked somebody in the early 90s, video on the internet, why would you want video on the internet? There was an industry of people that said, you know what? Actually, I can think of a really good usage of putting video on the computer back when everybody thought that was silly because why would I want that? I have a television. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, let's get over to it. So that's a little bit of the background, But so Pornhub, once again, A+ title. Pornhub pulls out of Texas, and
Not my headline. Very good headline though. Very good headline. Um,
so yeah, what's up?
so essentially, okay. So over the last like 2, 3 years, about a dozen states have passed very similar legislation is like verification legislation. And this is nominally intended to keep children off of porn sites. And it's like,
Mhm.
that is okay. You can feel about that however you want. But there's like this spate of laws that have been passed essentially saying like porn platforms have to verify the ages of their users. The problem with this is that we do not have a good way of verifying the ages of users. It's like for years, it's like type your birthday or
Right.
click I'm over 18. It's like no
Yeah.
one has in the history of the world has ever lied about that, of course. And so to do this, uh, there's been like this uh, crop of new age verification websites. And these websites essentially ask you to upload your ID to their
Mm.
app. And thus to like use Pornhub and comply with the law in these states, which it's like, I think Mississippi has it, like Alabama, Texas, I think Florida, and then a couple others. It's just like all of these laws have been passed in the last like year and a half or so.
Mm.
You have to upload your ID and then you have to upload an image of your face and kind of like Lord knows what happens to it. It's like the companies that are doing the verification claim that they're not storing any of this stuff, but at the same time, it's just like, I don't know, you're like uploading an image of your face to this like facial recognition algorithm and an image of your driver's license and like who sort of knows what happens to it. And so
Yeah,
there's
that's
a
kind
lot
of
of
a
like,
tall order. Yo, let me upload my face and my your driver's license to the porn site.
yes,
That's a tall, and again, not even speaking of, I mean, because there's two different, I guess, buckets of concern here, right? There's one that, for the reason that we just described, that porn barely gets, these sites barely get reported on because various reasons, but some of it is probably just people are just shy to, talk about it, period. So they don't want to report about it. But also, aside from that, this is the site and the industry, if you want to call it that, in which that there is stuff like deep fakes going on. So yeah, let me
mm,
upload all of my identifying information to the website in which hopefully this stuff isn't on it, but I mean, as you can tell, is that they've had issues with this too. So yeah,
Right.
tall order.
And then it's tall order, and then also just from a like protecting children standpoint, it's like there's nothing stopping a kid from trying to get through this. So then you might have a situation where some of these ID companies are then like have photos of children's faces who tried to get past it or something like this. It's just
Uh,
like a lot of like privacy type people are like, this is not a good law. It's like it's too complicated. You know, they've all been kind of lobbied for by the same like age verification technology platforms who, you know, are hoping to get the business from these porn sites. And it's like yet another kind of just
uh,
like, okay, like what's really behind this vibes. So, anyways, these various states have
I'm sorry.
passed these
I
laws.
I
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
interrupting you. Hold on.
No,
I'm
you're
sorry.
good. You're good.
Are you? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is there a suggestion here that hold on? Age verification companies are lobbying for these, trying to get these made into laws, and so this would be a law that would directly benefit them financially because they would hopefully get the contract to provide the technology to do all the age verification and all that. Is this what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean that is exactly what's happening. It's not just the age verification companies that are lobbying for it. There's also sort of like a lot of Christian like religious groups doing it. There's also just
Sure.
like a Protect the Kids coalition of like Lord knows who. But there's like various like anti-porn lobbying groups that have also pushed for this legislation kind of
Yeah.
all over the country. Um, and like we've seen with other laws, you kind of go like state by state by state. So it's essentially the same law being written by the same lobbyists, but being pushed through different states. The Texas one is really interesting though. You just had it
Hmm.
up. If you scroll up,
Yeah. Let's
it's
do
like
it.
a lot of them just straight up say like, hey, you know, you need to upload an ID to access this website. But the Texas one, if you try to go to porn sites in Texas, you get this big warning that says it's from the Texas Health and Human Services Commission that essentially says like porn is addictive. It will like break your brain in all of these different sorts of ways. And none of which is actually scientifically has any scientific backing. And then the actual Department of Texas Health and Human Services says that they had nothing to do with writing the language. It's like they're like, we don't know, we didn't approve this, we didn't do this. It's just straight up a lie.
wait,
Um,
wait. See, I was as you were talking, I was thinking, oh, let's go look at it, and then I realized we can't. I was genuinely thinking as we were talking, I was like, oh, I could just VPN into Texas, and then like just go to Pornhub, but we're on Twitch.
yeah,
Immediately, I'll get
yeah,
booted. So, well, maybe I
immediately.
wouldn't. Maybe I wouldn't actually because hopefully it wouldn't let me in. But if by some accidental chance that the VPN isn't working right, it would let me in. We would have a problem. I'm not going to do that. But yeah, anyway, so there's a message. Yeah, we can just VPN. Yeah, just VPN into Texas server. I don't think you understand what I'm saying here. um, but yeah, so basically what you're saying here is that they put up a big warning message on the front page of Pornhub if you go there from Texas, and it shows you a warning from the Health and Human Services Department, but the health department said, I don't know
Yeah,
who wrote
and
this.
if you look at the language of the law, like the language of the law has the warning in it. And it says like this is a warning from the Texas Health and Human Services Department.
Yeah.
Literally, it was just written by the lawmaker, and the law like has the language. This comes from Texas Health and Human Services
Oh
Department.
my gosh.
Texas Health and Human Services Department is like, we have nothing to do with this. We didn't write this. We filed freedom of information requests with them. They don't have any documents about it. Like, there's no evidence that like any scientist of any sort was involved in this, that Texas Health and Human Services was involved in it. It is just like anti-porn propaganda that was written by the lawmakers or by the lobbyist group that wrote the law for the lawmakers.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
so anyways, rather than comply with this law, like rather than say, okay, we will collect the ID, like the ages of everyone who visits our sites using this pretty invasive, like driver's license upload technology, ALO, which owns Pornhub and Browsers and like a couple other ones, has simply blocked the site in Texas. It's like if
Mm.
you try to access it from a Texas IP, you get this long message that says like, call your lawmakers. We've decided to block ourselves rather than comply with this law because we don't agree with it, essentially. And they have now done that in like 6 or 7 different states.
Really?
Texas was the one where they were holding out. So like when I might get the states wrong because I don't have it in front of me, but like when Wyoming passed this law, like they were one of the first. Pornhub blocked themselves in Wyoming, but when Texas did this, they did not block themselves. And
Mm.
I think this is because Texas is, I believe, the second most populous state, if not second. It's like third or fourth. It's a huge state where presumably, millions of people are accessing porn. And so I think that Pornhub was reticent to block itself there. Um, and then, I mean, long story short is like Texas sued Pornhub for not complying with this law. And then, which is just new, like 2 weeks ago, they sued
Mm.
Pornhub for not complying with this law. And then Pornhub is like, okay, we're going to block ourselves. And so now, if you live in Texas, you cannot access Pornhub unless you use a VPN, which,
People
people
are
will.
people will absolutely do. There's a it'd be
That's the
really.
message. It's like this really long message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says dear user, as you may know. So this is the message from that goes if you go to one of these sites, if you go to Pornhub or whatever. It says, dear user, as you may know, your elected officials in Texas are requiring us to verify your age before allowing you access to our website. And it goes on and on and on and tells you to, we call on all adult sites to comply with the law. Until the real solution is offered, we've made the difficult decision to completely disable access to our website in Texas. Yeah, as as Samir's saying in chat, it's harder to watch the hub than buy a gun in Texas. Yeehaw math indeed.
Yeah.
I think that actually might be, well, I mean, it's a good, I wonder if that's actually physically accurate, like literally accurate.
I think you can make the argument that it's comparable. It's like because I had thought the same thing, and it's like Samir, like smart to point it out. But the laws like preventing access to porn in some of these states are more stringent than like the laws that exist to get guns. Like
Yeah.
I think that is probably true. There's like more restrictions on porn. There's more restrictions on like library books at schools and stuff like that, which I think we will probably talk about. But yeah.
Yeah. Let's, at some point, I should have asked you this offline, but one thing I always wanted to do at Vice, and maybe we could do now, is at some point it'd be cool, or I'll just pitch this to you. Do some kind of online security, just kind of like workshop, because the amount of people that I know that are still using like I love dogs as their password for their bank login and their Gmail account is staggering. And this is normal. So
Yeah.
like password manager or whatever. I'm VPN, if that is relevant, like stuff like that. I would Pokemon 123 exactly.
Yeah. Two-factor authentication that's not tied to SMS is a big one. Like use an authenticator app is really a big one, even though it can sometimes be a pain in the ass. It's like so many hackers are abusing text message based two-factor. But yeah, that's a good idea. We should definitely do it at some point.
Yeah. If I can, I don't know, if we can stream part of it, you can do a replay or something like that on here. I'd love that. Cause I know I feel like your audience is, the audience is on 404 is probably, I mean, their internet setup is probably extremely locked down. Not everybody maybe, but I think maybe more likely to. People I hang out with, not necessarily. Like you mentioned Linux on your site, and it's like, oh yeah, I know what that is. I mentioned that in my social circles, and people think I'm immediately just Neo in the Matrix, which I'm absolutely not. But yeah, two-factor
I think of
authentication,
you as
everyone.
a cyber ninja, cyber
Great, thank
warrior.
you. Cyber war. Wait, cyber warrior is it?
Cyber warrior is like a little bit too aggro maybe, but you can hold your own. You can hold your own out there is what I mean.
Wait, weren't the cyber ninjas? Wasn't that the My
I think
Pillow
that
guys
may have
thing?
been, yes, it was. It was. But before that, it was a hacking group. Before that is a hacking group, and it was like a good one. So I was like, oh yeah.
Anything I can do to be closer to Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guys circle, I would
Oh,
love.
dude, Paul Chin in the chat. That's so, thank you, Paul. So Paul did the music for a short-lived podcast at Motherboard called Plus Plus Podcast.
You know
Um,
Paul?
yeah, he did the music. It was fantastic.
I'm
Fantastic
genuinely getting
experience.
sick
Thank
of
you.
all. No, I know Paul. Why is this happening? Everybody knows everybody. This is incredible.
Everybody
I
knows
did not know
everybody.
that.
Yeah.
God damn, dude. Shout out to Paul in the chat. Holy shit.
Yeah, we only made like 8 episodes of the podcast that he made the music for, and it was great music. And the reason we didn't make that many episodes of the podcast was because it was like wildly difficult to produce. It was just it was like a narrative podcast that I was like editing myself in Audition, and I was like,
Of
oh,
course.
I actually don't know how to do this.
These things happen. You know where you
Yeah.
could find out how to do things would be in a library, but unfortunately there are some people who don't want that to happen. Let's move on to the next headline here. On 404, police body cam shows sheriff hunting for quote obscene books at the library. So this is just a few weeks ago. Just I feel like this is one of those things. I always encourage people to read the articles. Don't just look at the headline and the picture. This is one of those things where you can kind of just read the headline, police body cam showing a sheriff hunting for obscene books at a library, and then you just see body cam footage of a dude sitting down with a book, like reading a comic book. There's
Yeah.
something really dystopian about this because, again, we've seen so much genuinely, being serious for a half second, genuinely, seriously horrific footage of body cams. And so I think we all kind of instinctively know what that fisheye lens, you see the two hands. Usually the two hands are holding a gun. We're seeing them hold a library book in the library. This is unhinged. What is happening
Yeah.
here?
So I found this footage to be obviously not on the level of like a police shooting video or other things that we're used to
Yeah.
seeing. But I found it to be really disturbing in like a different way, and in the way that you sort of mentioned, because it's just like this is an hour of footage. We're obviously not going to watch an hour of footage, but essentially there's this sheriff in Idaho, Kootenai County, Idaho, which is like central Idaho, where the libraries there have been dealing with this moms group called Clean Books for Kids.
Clean
And
books.
and essentially, this is happening all over the country.
Yeah.
I decided to drill into this because it was like a very specific situation. It's very extreme, and it sort of highlights what librarians are dealing with, both school librarians as well as like public librarians at just like public libraries.
Mm.
But basically, it's like at every meeting, the people from this group show up and they yell a lot, and they yell about how like the libraries are pushing a communist trans agenda on their children because they have books that sometimes deal with adult themes, and their goal is to get these books banned. And they've been very successful at getting some, a whole bunch of books banned, like both in schools as well as getting some libraries to not stock them. And the types of books that we're talking about are very often books that deal with things like police violence or deal with things like child sexual abuse, not in a way that like glorifies them, but in like a memoir, like, hey, this happened to me, or like, this is something that you should know about. And a lot of these books are like
here's how to get help type stuff. You're not alone.
that. I mean, yeah, it's like, I don't know. I grew up and I went to school and I read like Night by Elie Wiesel, which was about the Holocaust. It's like, you
Mm.
know, his experience of Auschwitz, essentially. And it's like, this is one of the books that has been banned in places. And it's like a horrifying book. You read it
Mm.
and it's like the descriptions are terrifying and they're like, you know, what is happening is really bad,
Mm.
but it's not glorifying the Holocaust. It was written by a Jewish writer about what his family experienced in the Holocaust. And it's like
Right.
the types of books that are getting banned are like LGBTQ coming of age stories where, you know, someone is like realizing that they might be gay or bi or trans and how they're sort of dealing with that as like a teenager.
Mm.
And then you essentially have like these parents, and now in this case, a cop saying like, this is porn. This is like, they're essentially saying this is porn. And in this case in particular, a cop in Idaho went to the library, met up with one of the women who runs this group called Clean Books for Kids, and
Mm.
he was basically like, "Show me the porn, show me the child porn." It's like straight up like what he was like. I think that these books are illegal. Please show me. And then they go and they look for these books and they like flip through them, and like the footage is basically 40 minutes of him silently reading comic books, like silently like looking through comic books. And then every once in a while, like the woman comes in and she's like, "Well, this isn't illegal, but I don't like it." Like they keep saying like they don't find what they're looking for, because when looking at these books, they're kind of realizing that they are not child porn. And
Yeah.
all that said, it's like he does that and then he goes to a public meeting and he like says we have to ban these books and so on and so forth, and it became a whole thing. And it's like this is the
Should we
uh
watch this? Should we watch this footage
yeah,
here?
sure.
Let's do this. This is I'm sorry. I'm just hung up on communist trans agenda. That's I know you're not like making that up. That is probably an
It's
actual
like a
literal
pretty
sentence that has
direct
been
quote.
said.
Yeah.
Yeah, just also first leading sentence of this article. Sheriff Robert Norris is speaking into his body camera. Today's date is April 20th. Was this intentional? This is intentional,
I mean,
Jason.
I did include it for some scene setting, I guess, but
Okay, yeah, there we go. All
I
right.
don't think he did.
No, I don't think so. Um, yeah, here we go. Somebody said, let's watch it. Is this the one here?
That's probably a good one to watch.
Okay, all right. Let's take a look at this one.
Guys on a team. This is a intentionally very androgynous character. All the girls fawn for him in the beginning of the book, but it's made clear later in the book that he prefers boys.
So, okay, she's showing him the book. It's a literal comic book. This dude's sitting at a desk reading a comic book.
Illegal? No. Unnecessary? Yes. Library. It's bigger than this, and it has a teen room.
A teen room.
It's a benefactor in the community donated the money for this big glass room to put all those noisy teenagers in there, and they hang out in there. And in front of that teen room, on a shelf that has, a bookshelf, a display was made of all of this author's books, all in one place in front of the teen room. Huh. So what do you call that, Sheriff? Enticing?
Promoting?
It's like an old-fashioned guy in a van with a bowl of candy trying to entice. I have goosebumps even saying it. It's so disgusting. So,
Yo, I'm sorry. Just to state the obvious, having a display of books in the library is not in any way equal to a guy in a van trying to kidnap children.
Yeah, and I think that is why this is so disturbing to me, is because we know from all of our work and from living in this country that when the police get involved in something, there is the potential for things to go sideways. And you have a cop with his body camera on showing up at a library, like looking for trouble, essentially. This a library, which is traditionally a place of knowledge, a place where people
Hmm.
go to, you know, check out books and apply for jobs and so on and so forth. It's like not where you want a cop being. And it's like it's the criminalization, whether like literally criminalization or just, you know, the cops showing up in such a way to kind of like harass and create a chilling effect
Yeah.
of these places of knowledge. And I think that's one of the reasons it's so upsetting to me, because I'm just like, this is not his lane. And he's just
No,
like there.
no,
And it's just
no.
like, who knows what could happen. And when you have people in there, like saying, this is like the pedophiles with the white van, it's like you are essentially making the claim that librarians are pedophiles. Like that is essentially the
Yeah.
argument. I don't think that they have said that directly, but that is like the implication that's being made. They're like enticing children into getting these smut porn books. It's like that is the narrative that they're pushing, and they're having quite a lot of success with it just because it's not a huge group of people. It's a very
Hmm.
small group of people actually, but they're very obsessed. They're very loud. They show up to every meeting. They make the librarians' lives hell. They're able to like get the cops to show up, and for that reason, you don't need a big group uh, of people. It's not like 50% of the country is like we have to ban these books. It's
Yeah.
like a tiny percentage, but they're able to like cause havoc because they've made it their like one and only issue.
Yeah. I mean, another one of these videos pulling this up. Uh, this is also pretty unhinged.
Featured. I have a photograph of a picture here. So this is pretty tall. That's 7 feet tall,
Sure.
right at the entrance, so you can't miss it. So I have a picture of a previous display that they had. You know, they usually have book covers, stapled along here. There were a preponderance of demonology and witchcraft here.
A preponderance of demonology and witchcraft. And by the way, if you weren't looking directly at the screen, she's pointing to a display that said, what does this say? It says, spring showers read for hours. And it's a large poster with an umbrella, some nice flowers, some water droplets cut out of construction paper. Legit, like, I'm not sure what the display looked like before that, but I'm pretty sure the display that now has a nice scene of, April showers bring great flowers, that kind of thing. I'm pretty sure that there was not a preponderance of demonology and witchcraft.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't actually seen the image, and I emailed this woman. I was like, "Can you send me the image that you're talking about?" And she did not send it.
Oh
She
no.
actually quizzed me. She's like, "What do you think of the books?" And I was like, "I don't have a problem with the books. Let's talk." Though, and she didn't want to.
Oh.
Um, but anyways, yeah, it's like really innocuous stuff. It's like, I mean, I don't know if we want to watch others, but
Yeah,
there's a
is there another one you think we should watch?
well, there's this portion, I think it's this one, where she's essentially describing like a really good customer service where if you are like disabled or can't drive because you're a child, you can get books delivered to you. And she like paints this as being, more
Bro.
plot because you can like log on with your iPad and request a book and they will bring it to you. And it's like, yeah, that's like a great
Let,
service from the library. Thank you.
let's look at this. Yeah. Is it this
This
one?
policy at
I
the
think it
moment.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can check out anything in here. No holds barred. You can be 10 years old and get anything out of the adult section. And with the advent of technology,
I'm sorry, adult section, you mean just like a book
like
that was
just the library.
it's not the adult section, it's the library. Like if you
Like
want to read,
the fiction section, the
yeah,
science fiction section, the biography section.
yeah, like you're 10 years old and you're just really smart, and you know what? Yo, I want to learn chemistry. Great.
That's the adult section. Anything that's not the kids section is the adult section.
It's just the
and
adult
it's like,
section.
yeah.
I'm sorry. MC in here saying, I want LeVar Burton to drop kick this woman into the ocean. We do not advocate for any sort of violence here. I will say that the image of LeVar Burton showing up and being very upset with this person, I think he would be. I think it is fair to say that LeVar Burton would not be happy with this.
Particularly since the shutdown, when so many kids were given Chromebooks, and every kid has a computer, whether it's a phone, whether it's a tablet, so they can, at home, they can log on literally with 3.
So this woman is explaining it to the cop, and we're seeing it on the body cam.
That you can't drive. Say you live in Athol and you want a book that's in Coeur d'Alene. They shuttle it. The shuttle's parked right back there.
And they shuttle it up there?
They shuttle. And so you see that where it says checkout right there? You take the book. Here's the barcode of the book. You put it under that little wand right there next to that screen. You put your card underneath. Click. You're out. 3 clicks and you're out. No
there's no adult supervision, staff supervision. Of
there's no adult who's going, oh, well, this isn't suitable for you.
Right.
That's just the interlibrary loan system. You've described ILL.
So that, and then also it's like, I don't know, man. You could do that about any store. It's like you just grab it off the shelf and then you take a credit card and you swipe it and then you leave. It's like, what is she? She's describing how you check out books from a library. This is how you check out books from a library since the dawn of time. Like, I don't know. Not into it.
It is that is difficult to watch. Somebody up here said, MTYYTN, what up? Welcome in. Said, as a non-American, I usually think Americans use the term fascist lightly for a lot of things, but a cop doing this shit sure looks like a fascist. I'd be worrying if he's taken seriously at the end. I mean, here's the thing, is the cop is clearly being taken seriously because he's at the library. I mean, somebody shows up with a uniform, regardless of what you think of police, people are going to look at that and say, oh, what is he here for? Is he here to arrest somebody? Did somebody do something bad? Did I do something bad? And then if you find out, oh, he's here checking the books, we have enough, and I'm just going to say this as somebody who taught kids, it's hard enough to get people to learn to read. I will say, actually, get people to learn how to read. Like, teaching is tough. The fact that there's anybody in this library is a miracle.
Yeah.
Not on TikTok, genuinely. And having a cop come in, and they may be super comfortable with cops. They may love police, but having a police officer come in and check out looking at the books and looking for bad stuff in the books, it's going to make you feel like, hey, maybe the library actually isn't a good place necessarily. Maybe there's bad stuff in here. Just even to put that seed of that idea into a child's head, that a library is a place where bad stuff happens, where the police need to come and check for criminals and check for criminal things on the shelves.
It's just like, of all the things in this country, like, the public library system is one of like the miracles. It's like, we fund cops, like, we don't fund bridges, we don't fund services for the homeless. Like, there are so many things that we do not fund. And it's like, they're using this, as a commenter just pointed out. It's like there are a lot of libraries being defunded. There's a lot of libraries like cutting back their hours. It's like New York City was gonna, I don't know how it shook out, but they were gonna like close on Sundays while the police were gonna get huge increases in overtime pay and funding and so on and so forth. And it's just like, one of the things that this country largely did right was like have a pretty robust library system
Mm-hmm.
that does all sorts of social services besides just checking out books. And this sort of like war on libraries and the suggestion, because the cops show up, that something nefarious might be happening there it's a tragedy. And we have seen like a few small cities completely defund their libraries as a result of groups like this.
This is, and then I don't know where this is in the video, but we'll just take a look at this exchange right here. So there's a part where they're talking about, again, a comic book, and the person says, I don't know if this is relevant to you. This is a graphic novel, and the character kisses both males and females to figure out what she likes, blah, blah, blah. And the cop says, what do they call these? It's graphic novels. And he's like learning in this moment what a graphic novel is. And I think it sounds like the difficulty here is graphic as in explicit depictions of sex, but that's not actually what it is. It just means graphic as in like graphics.
Yeah. Look, I don't know this guy. Like, I don't know him. I emailed him. He didn't email me back. I don't know him. I don't know what he like actually thinks about this stuff. But it is very clear this man does not know shit about books or the library or like anything of this nature. Because he is like, oh, please explain to me how libraries work. Does not know. Like, he just does not know. Doesn't know what graphic novels are, like certainly doesn't know what manga is, and he like definitely like was looking through a lot of manga inspired books in there. And I don't know what was going through his head. I don't know if he checked this stuff out afterwards, but he stopped for a long time on certain pages, and I'm like, this guy is like looking up hentai when he gets home. That is what I thought. Like, this is the vibe. This is the vibe. I don't know if he did it. I don't know what's in his heart. No. But he's like, oh, I got some ideas now. Like, I didn't know this shit existed. I got to go figure out what's going on here. That is the vibe of some of this footage. And it's like, I don't know, maybe he's just bad at reading and had to linger on some of these pages with barely any dialogue on them for like a really long time. But I don't know.
Can we go to the tape? Can we go? I need to. Where are we?
I'm not sure which clip, but
I'm gonna paste this in the link in the chat, because I would like you all to do your own research, as they say. But wow, listen, man, that is an analysis. If I trust anybody to do a what we call a textual analysis of the videos in here, you've looked at it. I would trust you to do that. So yeah, your analysis, I think, probably stands pretty well. Well, the inspiration, I suppose. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Here's books that were. So what is this? Books that were returned to the library system. So we've got a book called "Deal with It: A Whole New Approach to Your Body, Brain, and Life as a Girl."
So this is a whole other part. I went deep on this guy, this like situation.
Yeah,
but
clearly.
Basically, he gets two books that were not in that library. They used the interlibrary loan system, or theoretically they were supposed to. And he gets two books that he had heard about prior to going there. And he took them. Like, someone took them and gave them to him. One was stolen, like not checked out. One was stolen from another branch. And
he just stole the book from the library.
And the other one was way overdue and was given to him. And there was like a news cycle in this small town after all this happened. Because after this, he like went to a public meeting and was like, I found this smut at the library. And then the librarian was like, no, you didn't find this smut at this library. You lied. You got these books after the fact. Neither of them were checked out properly. Or like one of them was just straight up stolen. You're in possession of stolen books. Give them back. Like, that's what the library was saying. Like, these badass librarians are like, give us our books that you stole back. And for a while he was like, no. And so there are people who have been saying like this, like a cop is knowingly in possession of stolen property, which is a crime. you know, what's going to happen? And it's like, well, he's the sheriff, so nothing happens. But then he gives the books back, but the books, like the barcodes had been X-Acto knifed out. And that's what that image was showing. It's like, if you look, like the barcodes are cut out. And so the librarian was like, we can't return these to, we didn't return them to the shelves. And it's like, I don't know if she's just trying to make a point about how the cop did this. Like, I don't know if they could slap another barcode on there or what, but she was like, they were defaced. We're not returning them to the shelves until we're able to like properly replace them. So cop, like, essentially he either stole the books or was like knowingly in possession of stolen books, wouldn't give them back. When he finally did give them back, they were destroyed. I use passive tense there because we don't know who destroyed them. They maybe one of the parents did and then gave it to him, because clearly he got them from someone like in this group or who is like in this world. So anyways, that's what happened.
This it is going through. I mean, again, I've pasted this in the chat. You can read through it here. I mean, on the website, the group Clean Books for Kids, 4, of course, is the number, lists more than 900 books to avoid in a spreadsheet. I'm scared to click that. Yeah. And then, of course, below this, we've got this picture. It sounds from one of these meetings where they've got.
So this is from a keynote speech that the woman in the video, who was like his tour guide, was giving to the Republican club of like the local town. And it's like a 15-minute presentation. It's on YouTube. I linked to it. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. And that's where I say, like, they say it's a leftist communist plot. You know, she does talk about like they're pushing Black Lives Matter. They're pushing white guilt is a phrase that she uses. And so, like, of course, it's not just they're pushing gay stuff on our kids. It's like they're also pushing diversity, equity, inclusion, etc. All these buzzwords that we've like sort of seen the right use for quite some time. And it's like she doesn't bring that up with the cop. But like that's sort of like the subtext of all of this. And then she talks about communism and how this is a communist plot to push literature on our kids and blah blah blah. It's like it's a crazy speech.
Yeah, I mean, she's got on the screen here, got a picture with the hammer and sickle and the American flag next to it, with the subtitle, "This is about much more than books." So apparently, what's happening here, if I'm picking up what you're putting down, is the thing that she thinks that she can show is illegal is quote unquote sexual content for kids, which it's not even that. Knowing that having a book about the evils of slavery, say, isn't strictly illegal. I mean, neither is the other stuff. But if you go and look at what she's telling, you know, people in her group, this is what they actually have a problem with. They have a problem with all of this. It's just they think they can catch a library on something that is vaguely speaking about bodies.
Right. And so in Idaho, there was a bill that was passed by the Senate and the Assembly, like both houses passed it, that would have given parents the ability to like quasi sue the library if their kids ended up with books that they did not like. It was something like $1,000 per example of kids getting books that parents didn't approve of. And the librarian, like I watched, there's hours and hours and hours of footage of like the library board of directors meeting and talking about like all this stuff. And they're basically like, if this law goes into effect, like we're going to get like people are going to use this in bad faith, obviously, and we're going to owe tons of money and we might not be able to operate anymore. It's like they're not operating on a great financial footing at this point. And to Idaho governor's credit, they vetoed the bill. So it is not illegal for like these libraries to essentially just operate as normal. But that they were trying to push this bill, and it's like, let's say that had passed, it's like then maybe there's a lawsuit to prevent it from going into effect because of the
Yeah.
First Amendment and stuff like that. But like we're just like burning money on like legal fees and stuff at this point. It's just like it's messy. It's very messy, and it's very expensive, and it's just, you know, they're bogging down the gears of the system to get their way, more or less.
And of course, this has the effect is, as you use the phrase, I think it's just a chilling effect. I mean, it makes somebody not want to be a librarian. It makes somebody not want to go to the library. It makes a librarian, if there's, you know, an issue in the community where, hey, it looks like there's, you know, issues with some discrimination and some, you know, race related bullying or something like that. Like kids are bullying each other and they're using words. I don't really think they know what the words mean, but let's bring somebody in to come and talk about it. Maybe I won't do this event because I'm scared that some mom, you know, mom or dad sure is going to come in and start yelling at us and making my life more difficult. I just won't do it. And then of course, as a result, the kids who would benefit from this don't benefit from it. So yeah, Samir's asking, is it a majority of the parents there that are down with this, that approve this sort of thing? It sounds like it's a pretty small minority, just a loud one, right?
It's a small group. Some of them are not even parents. Like some of them like are just older people who are there. There are people at these meetings who speak up on behalf of the librarians. It's like it's not just people trying to ban the books. There are people there being like, please protect our libraries, so on and so forth. But when you say that, it's like there's a difference between what parents actually think and what people who on a Tuesday night at 7 p.m. go and sit at a 4-hour meeting and like talk about this stuff think. And so it's one of those things where it's like the people who are showing up are largely against this, but it's only like a dozen people who are showing up. But if you're the librarian or you're in charge of this and you're just getting yelled at every 2 weeks for 4 hours, and threatened, of course, because like they are threatening, that's not pleasant. It's not pleasant.
Cool. All right. Great to know. Great that this exists. Yeah, shout out librarians though. Shout out librarians.
Yeah, they are badasses, and it's like the head of the library here was like, you know, pretty fearless in talking about this stuff, and I was like, how can you do this when the cops are showing up, when you have groups like this showing up, people protesting, blah blah blah? And they're like, well, it sucks. It sucks when that happens, but like 80% of all of our interactions are people like teaching kids how to read, like you know, teaching people how to write a resume or a cover letter or apply for a job or apply to college or whatever. And so they're like, the vast majority of our interaction with the public are amazing, and we tried to like hold those in our hearts and kind of like let the other stuff wash off of us. But it is, I would imagine there's a lot of burnout and churn in libraries, more broadly speaking. I haven't seen the research on it, but I have to imagine people are avoiding it. Not like it's a well-paid job. It's like, yeah.
I mean, I would imagine that's happening definitely now. Well, yeah, man. I mean, speaking of war on communist ideology, maybe we can get to TikTok. So you wrote this up. Funny thing, I was working on a video on this, and you've made similar. I mean, a lot of the points that I was talking about. But I think you and I actually haven't talked about TikTok, at least not in a public forum, yet. Because I think I talked to you just before I was going to go interview the CEO of TikTok. But you've got some takes in here. I think they're interesting. I like where you're going with it. But let's talk about the general thrust of this. So the headline of your article here is: the US wants to ban TikTok for the sins of every social media company. And the headline, or the subhead here, the deck, is: the TikTok situation is an untenable mess. Banning it will further balkanize the internet. So maybe let's start if people weren't aware, there is some now very serious talk of actually banning TikTok. And So where are we right now?
So the House passed a bill that would require ByteDance, who owns TikTok, to divest from ByteDance and sell it to an American company. And if they do not do that, then there is a mechanism to ban TikTok within that legislation. It's currently unclear whether the Senate would take it up, although Joe Biden said that he would sign it.
Yeah.
Um,
If it gets to him, he'll sign it.
if it gets to him. And, you know, we've kind of been playing like chicken with TikTok for several years now. It's like Trump had a few executive orders where he was trying to either ban TikTok or force them to sell. Those sort of just like fell by the wayside. Like nothing really happened. And there's been a few other times where people, like politicians, have threatened to ban TikTok or force ByteDance to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very curious how you feel about this. I do not think that TikTok is good. Like, I'm not like, hey, like, I love TikTok. This is amazing. I do spend a lot of time on TikTok, but I'm not like, I'm very hard on social media companies, like across the board. I don't think that TikTok is like amazing, but I also don't know how you square a ban of TikTok with the First Amendment, which I
Yeah.
feel very strongly about the First Amendment, and for all of the like crying about social media censorship that Republicans have done for the last decade. And, you know, everyone has been talking about like social media censorship and banning and blah, blah, blah. I don't know how you can then have the government forcefully take 130 million people or however many Americans are on TikTok and say you cannot use this app. That is, despite
Yeah.
what many like stupid journalists still reduce it to, is not an app for teens dancing. It's like an app for all sorts of shit. It's an app for everything else that every other social media platform is too. So
Yeah.
that's my broad perspective, but I'm very curious how you feel about it.
Well, let me ask.
Especially since you did interview their CEO. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, let me ask if I can ask you one extra question, actually. And this is something. So if y'all don't know, before every stream, I post on IG, on Instagram at DexDigi, and I tell people, yo, if you have any questions or any topics or whatever that you want me to get into with this week's guest, let me know. And one of those, if I can pull it up, was, well, the general thrust of it, and I think this is a big question, is there any merit to the question of national security, right? That and here's the I'm gonna lay out the argument as I understand it, as it's been put out, and you tell me, because you spend more time, on this stuff. So essentially the idea is, okay, look, TikTok, as we know, is owned, as you said, by ByteDance. ByteDance is a company in China, and in China, there's no real expectation like we have here of privacy. So in the States, if you send me a message, if we're on Facebook and you send me a message on Facebook and we talk for a while, and then the cops want those messages, Facebook theoretically will say to the cops, they will say, no, you cannot have those messages. You're going to need a warrant. Now, if the cop goes and gets a warrant and proves, no, we really have a reason that we really need these messages because I think Dexter and Jason are planning something nefarious, yes, Facebook will hand it over to them. But there are barriers to that sort of thing. And Facebook operates only because we tend to believe that is the case, right? Nobody would use Facebook in the United States if we thought that anybody who asked for our messages or our pictures or whatever could just get them. We would not use those. At least I don't think so. You can make an argument otherwise. But in China, there is no expectation of that. In China, you know that if you use a messaging service, that anything that you send, it's like BCCing it to the cops. Anything. And people have, you've more or less accepted that. If you live there, that's how it is. And you just sort of live your life accordingly, right? And so the fear is that, well, because this is a Chinese company, any company in China basically operates like this. Because this is a company that's based in China, even though TikTok has said that they have basically created a US only version of TikTok, that those norms, those laws, and those frankly cultural norms that, you know, surround the social media universe, really, those norms would now apply to us also. So just by the transitive property, if China wants the messages of somebody in the United States or any data, their location data, whatever, China, the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party could come in and say, hey, I want Dexter's messages. And TikTok would hand them right over. So all that said, that's the background. Is there any merit to that or any other national security concerns? What are people saying that are actually security researchers?
Yeah, I will try to be brief, but it's complicated, so probably won't be brief. So I think that there are actually three separate things happening here. There's one, there is the surveillance, which is exactly what you just said, like the potential for surveillance. Like that is one of the arguments, like by the CCP, by the Chinese government. There is also the idea of like mind control, brain control, like sort of like propaganda, which is separate from surveillance, but a related argument where people are like, the CCP is putting their thumb on the scale in some way we can't tell and is brainwashing our children. That is like a separate but similar argument. And then the third argument is TikTok is bad because there's like anorexia content on there. There's like bad content on there, and it's addictive, and it's like digital crack, and kids like it, and they're obsessed with it. So all of these arguments, like you can make about any other social media company.
Yeah,
I do think that I think that it is possible that some of the like surveillance and like China could use TikTok in ways that we don't want them to use. They might have merit. And here's why I'm like not cool with it, because we have not seen that. It's like we are being asked to ban this gigantic technology that millions and millions of people use on the like blind faith of like the FBI says, or like the CIA says, or the intelligence community says. But we have not seen the evidence. We haven't like seen the back door. We haven't seen the sort of like social, the propaganda and thumb on the scales situation that people are saying like, this is why we need to ban it. And I think that if there is hard evidence that this is what is happening, I would like to see it. But what is happening is it's being shared in classified meetings, and you have lawmakers coming out of these classified meetings saying that wasn't very convincing. Like what was told to me was not very convincing. And I don't
in terms of security specifically, like data being leaked, data being handed over to the Chinese government.
Yeah. You have lawmakers who are like relatively well informed on these issues coming out of these hearings, these classified hearings that we can't know what the argument is as the people who use TikTok, as the American people. We're not privy to like what the actual argument is. But you have people who went to those meetings and can't say specifics because it's classified, saying, I didn't find that to be convincing. Like I don't think that the surveillance fear is founded, or I don't think that the propaganda fear is founded based on the current briefing that I just went to that we're nominally using to ban this technology. So that's a long way of saying like, there is no smoking gun. There are like some situations where like things have gone viral on TikTok that are bad, or like it's not a perfect platform, but the same things that have happened on TikTok have happened on Twitter, have happened on Facebook, have happened on Instagram, so on and so forth. And TikTok has handled them in a similar way to Facebook and Twitter. And like when
let's even though, if we can, like I really want to like kind of nail this point, make sure that we're getting it right as best as possible. So especially because 404, like y'all really specialize in technology. The people who have the ability, the security clearance to go to these classified meetings that we can't go to, they're coming at them and saying, I'm not really feeling like I'm convinced about the security concerns about data being leaked over to China, to the Chinese government. I'm not really feeling like that's a legitimate concern. What are independents? Let's find somebody who's independent. What are independent security researchers saying? People who understand hacking, who understand espionage digitally, who understand state actors getting involved in espionage. Like, I don't know if there is a consensus, but
Right.
what are you hearing?
So I don't think that there is a consensus. And one of the reasons is like no one has been able to demonstrate a specific backdoor. Like no one has like been able to look at the TikTok app and say, here is how they're funneling data to the Chinese government. And no one has been able to look at the TikTok algorithm and say they're spreading pro-Chinese talking points or so on and so forth. Like, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself slightly, but it's like rather than trying to do the very difficult job of regulating social media more broadly, they are saying, let's ban TikTok because it is easier. And the problems of like the algorithm is opaque, it's a black box, we don't know what's happening. It could be getting subverted, or there could be information getting shared back to the Chinese government. It's like there are ways to regulate these companies that we should be doing for all of the social media companies, for Facebook, for Reels, for Telegram, for Discord. Telegram also, messaging app that was like founded by Russians, is operated out of the UAE now, has tons and tons of just crime on it. And it's like there's no regulation of these apps really. They've hauled Mark Zuckerberg in front of Congress and yelled at him for a few minutes, and then he says, well, what about Chinese competition? We need to, like, I'm an American, this is an American company, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, thank you so much, Mark Zuckerberg. Good job. Largely that's what the hearings were. They were like, okay,
Right.
like Facebook was used to subvert democracy, or at least it had Russians operating on it trying to do that. You guys fucked up and didn't catch it. And he's like, oh, I'm very sorry. And it's like, we're not banning Facebook. Like there's no discussion like, let's ban Facebook. Nor do I think we should ban Facebook. But it's like, there are ways to introduce privacy regulation that would require these companies to open up their algorithms so that we can actually like look at how they are, spreading information and what sort of like, how are they doing content moderation? How are they like tracking engagement and targeting people with ads? And like, why do we allow the advertising industry to target like specifically white people in specific neighborhoods with lower interest rates for mortgages than black people in specific neighborhoods, which was a thing that happened on Facebook that, Facebook got in trouble for, but there's not like regulation of these algorithms and how they're used. And that's just to say, it's like, there's no real consensus among security researchers because we just don't know. Like, we don't know if there's a backdoor. No one's been able to prove a backdoor, and no one's been able to analyze the algorithm in a way that is not just guessing to some extent. And then there's also the argument, like a lot of this is picked up after October 6th, sorry, in Israel, where you essentially have like a bunch of people screaming like these leftists on TikTok are pro-Hamas, anti-Semitic, etc. And there's not really a good way of analyzing this either, because like the sentiments of people on one platform that has one age demographic are not necessarily going to be the sentiments that are held by another demographic on another platform.
Yeah, it's going to look different than it does, say, on LinkedIn.
Right. Right.
LinkedIn is LinkedIn's a cold game. Everybody, if you're on LinkedIn, if you find yourself logging into LinkedIn, don't. That would be my advice. In general, get off the internet. That's my general philosophy. But yo, I mean, I think there's a couple things, and there's a couple really good points that you make in this article. I should pull it up so people can see what I'm talking about. So there's Brendan Carr, who is the
He's like an FCC commissioner.
Yeah.
There's like 5 commissioners, I believe, and he's one of the Republican commissioners.
Okay. A commissioner of the FCC saying, in America, TikTok pushes videos to kids that promote self-harm, eating disorders, and suicide. In China, the version of TikTok available there, Douyin, the app shows young kids science experiments, museum exhibits, and other educational materials. So this is where it gets interesting, right? Is because at a certain point, the bill as it's written, this is what I've been thinking. The bill as it's written, it talks specifically about security. Like that's what the law addresses, right? And so to explain kind of what the law would do is the law, Trump's version was basically, I'm banning TikTok. That's it. We're banning TikTok. What this does is it creates a framework, and it says any app that is run by a foreign adversary, and this is not my words, this is the United States words. China is on a list of countries that are foreign adversaries. North Korea is another one. Russia is another one. And essentially, any of these, any app that is run by one of these places, it's illegal to distribute it. And so what you're actually doing is you're going after the Google Play Store, you're going after, Apple's App Store, saying you're not allowed to distribute this. And if you do, we're going to charge you $5,000 per user. And considering that TikTok had, I think, 130 million users at their last, count, that's like $750 billion. Nobody's paying that check. Apple and Google will absolutely comply with that law. So that's what's happening here. But it's all about security. And this is why I really wanted to get into the security thing. But then when you look at what they're saying publicly, when they're saying why TikTok is bad, they're talking about the content of it. And my brother, if you believe that TikTok in China is nothing but wholesome content, I have a really long wall to sell you. Because I don't know how tapped in you are with the stuff that is on social media in China. There is misinformation all over the place. All the sort of bad stuff that exists here, it absolutely exists here. And so the idea that China as a country is trying to cause brain rot, maybe, but as you put in here, we're doing a really, really good job of that ourselves. I mean, you've got an entire paragraph here that I can just go through really briefly. I mean, Discord is full of communities used for organizing by neo-Nazis and paramilitaries, criminal hackers, crypto scammers. Facebook is full of AI-generated bullshit, credibly accused of being abused to facilitate an entire genocide in Myanmar. Twitter's full of malware. YouTube is being used by ISIS terrorists, mass shooters, child brainwashers. I mean, all of these, and some of these links probably go to your site. Some of these links go to other things. Like, this is widely documented. As Ching is saying in the chat right now, the U.S. is very adept at creating its own brain rot.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is just like all of our own platforms have been used for everything that we are accusing TikTok of doing. Yeah. And I think that we do a real disservice to ourselves and the world when we're like, China operates on a lockdown internet and nothing bad is there. It's like there's a lot of innovation and interesting things happening on the Chinese version of TikTok and on China's internet in general. It's like the Great Firewall is not this porous. It is surveilled, of course, but that doesn't mean that it's full of only like educational videos. There is like a lot of crazy stuff there. And that's part of the reason that, Chinese companies have had such success kind of coming here. It's like things like live stream sales and, all these, there's like a bunch of like Chinese stuff that you can find on Instagram, but also on other platforms where it's like counterfeits. And I don't mean to only list bad things. I'm just saying it's like there are things that people in China are doing on the internet that are interesting, that are exported, that other people in other countries like as well. It's why many of their companies have become popular in the United States over the last few years, including TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, talk about communism all you want, fam. I mean, TikTok is out capitalizing the capitalists. Like
Right.
an app where you make videos and then it seems like TikTok is genuinely getting worse, by the way. TikTok is genuinely, it's not as fun as it used to be. Every maybe fifth video is an ad for something, often things
And the
that I'm not
shop.
interested in. The shop, it's all bad. But again, these were things I was reporting on TikTok in 2019. No, before that. It was somewhere in there, but there was a guy we were talking about selling things on live streams, and this was a piece for Vice News Tonight, and we had to explain how it worked. We had to write almost a paragraph of voiceover and narration to explain to the viewer what the heck they're talking about, because it didn't exist yet, but it was really normal in China. And this is something that has come here, and millions probably at this point of businesses are using this thing and depend on it. And it's I think my take is quite close to yours. I think what we're going to see next is how this stands up, because I think the First Amendment thing is going to be a serious barrier for this. It's going to be a really serious barrier for this.
I would think so. And it's like we do
stuff that's unconstitutional all the time, so who knows?
Right.
But
right. That's the thing that, it may seem frivolous, but it's like the First Amendment, as I understand it, which I've studied it quite a lot because I'm a journalist. It's like an important thing. It's like when we do articles and don't want to get sued, it's like, let's figure out the First Amendment so that we understand it. And it's like, I've talked to a lot of lawyers, so on and so forth. It's like the government cannot just be like, okay, you're not allowed to do speech in this place.
Yeah.
If that place is a place that you were already doing speech, so on and so forth, there's like, I don't want to misapply various doctrines, but it's just like the idea that people who are on TikTok can just go to Reels is like not a First Amendment argument. It's like if people want to be on TikTok, the government theoretically should not be able to say, well, you can't be there. And there are all sorts of First Amendment carve-outs for national security, and that's what like this would presumably come down to in court. But it's just like, I think that people who are like, oh yeah, there's no, like, whatever, TikTok's bad, we got to ban it. I think it's kind of frivolously like wiping away the First Amendment concerns here, which I think are pretty serious. There are people making their businesses there. It's like, we're using it to spread, our stories and hopefully drive people to our website. Vice did that. Every company is on TikTok now.
Biden is on TikTok.
Yeah, right. It's like half the politicians that want to ban TikTok are on TikTok.
They're on TikTok. They're on TikTok. Yeah. I think people got hit with the ads. Great timing. This is something. I mean, here's something I've been thinking about just to illustrate the First Amendment challenge that I think this is going to come up with. Yes, Biden is on TikTok right now. Like he said he wouldn't, I think last summer, and now he's out on TikTok with doing memes with like lasers shooting out of his eyes or something like that. Dude is on TikTok. I could probably pull him up, but Biden HQ. Hold on, is this real? Yeah.
Two great quarterbacks, hard to decide. But if I didn't say,
hold on a second,
the Eagles, and I'd be sleeping alone. My wife's a Philly girl.
Oh,
game or commercials?
Game.
Game or halftime show?
Game.
Jason Kelsey or Travis Kelsey?
Mama Kelsey. I understand she makes great chocolate chip cookies.
Deviously plotting to rig the season so the Chiefs would make the Super Bowl, or the Chiefs just being a good football team?
I'd get in trouble if I told you.
Trump or Biden?
Are you kidding? Biden.
My boy's on TikTok. Okay.
He's on TikTok.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's like it's funny because we've been having this conversation for the last like 5 years, and
Yeah.
it's like the facts haven't changed all that much.
They haven't.
If anything, it's just like TikTok is more entrenched now. And we haven't talked about this, and I don't need to even like, we don't need to go down this road necessarily, but it's like banning TikTok is a handout to Facebook, to Google,
Mhm.
to Twitter. And it's like we have a
In the
social
sense that
media.
it would help them with market share. It'd send everybody to them. It just create more
Yeah, it's
consolidation,
like
more monopolization.
yeah, TikTok is one of the only competitors that has like actually succeeded at taking on these companies without being bought out at the first sign of competition. Or I
Mhm.
mean, they were copied. It's like Reels copied them, and Facebook hasn't had an original thought in 15 years, has just bought its competitors or copied its competitors. But it's
Mhm.
like TikTok has succeeded at kind of the staying power needed to be a real competitor to Facebook. And the fact that it's just like now, after sort of out competing, out maneuvering some of these companies, it's like, oh well, we'll just ban it. It's like we'll just get rid of it. You fucked up. You didn't manage to like crush TikTok early on, Mark Zuckerberg. So like
Yeah.
now we'll just ban it. Um, I don't know. I feel like I just get kind of like upset when I think about what this looks like and sort of what it can start, because it's like, I don't know, man, if like Modi bans Facebook or says like we're going to ban Facebook in India unless Mark Zuckerberg sells Meta to an Indian company. It's like we will laugh about that. There's no way
Yeah.
that Mark Zuckerberg would like sell Facebook to another company. And so the idea that ByteDance should sell TikTok to Steve Mnuchin is insane. It's just like insane to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna just like force this big company to sell to like one of Trump's allies for what,
Yeah.
like, under what grounds? It's crazy.
Well, I mean, there are laws that prevent. The thing is, the talk about, hey, this isn't actually a ban. It's just asking them to divest, and if they do that, we're good. There's law. You're making it's a ban. It's a ban. Just call it a ban. The politicians support it. They're calling it a ban. It's fine. Let's just get out there, admit what it is. Yeah, man. I think there's so much to talk about this. We could talk about this forever because the thing about it is it touches everything. And I think we probably see eye to eye on this is I don't think you love TikTok. I don't necessarily either. I think TikTok is genuinely, there are some bad things happening. I have suspicions that there are bad things happening all over the place in the company, outside of the company. I mean, some of the leaks that came out of ByteDance still requesting data from China, from TikTok. It's two possible things. One is actual nefarious activity. The other one is just incompetence. Having worked at a place where there was a little bit of incompetence, I have a feeling it might be the second, actually, more than the first. But from a U.S. policy standpoint, I understand it doesn't matter. But when you got the spotlight on you, you can't be messing up like this. You cannot be messing up like this. So TikTok is not making their lives necessarily any easier. And I mean, the thing that I think they're doing, which frankly I think is probably smart, is their PR person told me straight up, because I asked her, I said, do you think that the lobbying money that they're using, by the way, they're not spending that much on lobbying, and I think because they're realizing it's not effective, do you think the lobbying you're doing in DC, trying to sweet talk politicians, is more effective, or trying to get your users to tell everybody how much they love the app is more effective? And she said immediately, oh no, the users. This DC stuff ain't working. They don't want to hear us. Which, okay, makes sense. But they're going for on a cultural angle, and TikTok is so entrenched in life, period. I mean, it has absolutely shifted culture. Now they could get banned and Reels could step in, because I mean, look, that's what happened in India.
Yeah.
India banned it, and in 2020. And they had obviously different security concerns because there's border disputes, and so that was their beef, the real one. But yeah, I mean, it could happen. If it does, that's essentially probably what will have to happen. Is there are copycat versions of it. There's YouTube Shorts. There's Reels. People will shift. It'll get weird. It could happen, but yeah, it's about to be weird.
Yeah,
It's about to be weird.
The other thing I don't like is that if TikTok is banned, it's like TikTok is not going to cease to exist. It's going to exist in other countries. And we think of the internet, and it's not true, but like we think of the internet as a global thing where everyone is. And it's like, of course, I put this in the deck of the story, but it's like we're creating a balkanized internet where there's like the American internet where you can get most things, but you can't access TikTok. There's China, which has, can't access a lot of the other websites in other parts of the world without a VPN, of course. There's India where you can't access TikTok. And it's like each country is going to have its own version of the internet. And it's going to create this situation where you have, I learned this while I was reading it, while I was writing about this, but a splinter net where it's like a bunch of different versions of the internet all over the world. And it's going to disconnect the world in a way that I don't like. And I know that we don't have a perfect internet right now where everyone can access everything, but we very often argue that the Chinese people are cut off from the rest of the world, that they have the Great Firewall, they have a censored internet, they're not allowed to see certain parts of the internet, so on and so forth. And it's like, of course, a lot of people there use VPNs, get around it, whatever. But we are making the same argument that China has made to its people, that like we need to cut you off from the rest of the world. And that is what these politicians are doing here in the United States. And it's like, okay, are the Chinese people bad? Like, is the Chinese government bad, or do you just want to copy what they're doing? Because banning TikTok is copying what China has done with our social media companies. And it's like, if that's how it's going to be, that's how it's going to be. But make that argument. Make the argument like we don't trust American people on the broader internet because we think they're going to get brainwashed or whatever. Like, I don't think it's a good argument. And I don't like it as someone who lives in the United States. I want that uncut internet. I want to be able to see what's going on. Like, I don't want to be cut off.
Yeah. Just also, man, I don't want to belabor this too much. and we should, I want to get to another one, but truly, I mean, just coming back to what this commissioner of the FCC said right here, which is in China, the Chinese TikTok, they're getting science experiments, museum exhibits, and other educational material. That's like wildly racist in this really weird way, which is to say that, what do you think Chinese people are, man? Like, you're not even talking about human beings here. If you think all they do is sit around and look at educational material all day, you're like, kids? Do you think kids in China are genuinely only looking at science experiments?
Right.
Do you know how many dumb Chinese kids there are? I would argue that the ratio is probably very similar to the amount of dumb American kids. Not even like dumb kids. I'm just talking about like kids that just want to play some video games. Kids that just want to go outside and hit stuff with a stick. Like, this is what kids do. Just because you're Chinese doesn't mean all you're going to do is sit there and stare at science experiments all day on your phone. That's like, it's wildly offensive. Like, I think they don't think of it like that. But what an incredibly bizarre thing to think and then say.
Right. And I mean, yeah, my partner reports on Chinese tech, and like that's the point she's making constantly, is that like Chinese people are people.
Yeah.
They're the same as all of us with their own interests, their own like everything. And it's like we are kind of taught from a young age that like, in the same way, same is true with like Russia, where it's like, oh, these are our enemies. Like the governments are our enemies, and therefore, like they're brainwashing us, blah blah blah. And it's like, I don't know, man. I've seen some crazy shit on the Russian internet. Like they're doing some wild stuff over there. And same in China, same in every other country. They have their own innovations. They have their own thoughts, feelings, problems, so on and so forth. It's like, we have some friends who just moved here from China, and they're constantly telling us like the Chinese internet is like 3 years ahead of the US internet. Like 3 years from now, you're going to be doing the same shit that we're doing. And that's like how it's been over the course of a few years. It's like they had all, they had Douyin and various other social media platforms that are either now here in the United States or that American social media companies have copied at some point. And it's like, yeah, man, it's like there's I hate this word, but there's innovation everywhere. There's like crime everywhere.
Yeah.
There's like all these there's the dark web everywhere, so on and so forth. And it's just like it is racist, and it's sad, and it's so reductive to be like, oh yeah, like in China, TikTok is only science experiments and videos of elephants. Like,
no, they're absolutely kids making TikToks of themselves, hitting stuff with sticks, playing pranks on each other, like doing funny dances. It's, come on, man. This is silly. Anyway, all right. So, lastly, because we've been at this for a minute, the main event, what everybody here is for. Facebook's Shrimp Jesus Explained, published March 19th, 2024, 9:47 a.m. in Eastern Time. So this is a hit. This is a new one. So I just wanted, I don't know if everybody can see this. There's no way we're going to get to all this because I don't know if you can see this little scroll bar here. See how small that scroll bar is? This is a long...
It's a lot of pictures, though. A lot of pictures.
That's true. It is a lot of pictures, which, for the brain rot that China has imposed upon us via their propaganda and adversary enemy technology they've put into our brains. We're not able to process anything without pictures. So thankfully it's got that in there. But yeah, so again, the headline here being Facebook's Shrimp Jesus Explained. Please explain Shrimp Jesus to me. Oh man, this is wild.
Yeah. So a few months ago, I wrote about this proliferation of AI generated images on Facebook. Like these images were going viral over and over and over again, or like this specific type of image where it was like someone put an image in one side and then an AI altered it and then was posting it onto Facebook. And for a while, it was all of these images of like wood carvings, like elaborate wooden carvings of dogs and things like this. And people were saying like, oh, I carved this with my own hands. Like that was the caption. It's just like, I carved this, I carved this, I carved this. And they were taking real images of real wood carvers and getting tons of comments, tons of likes, so on and so forth. That article is like one of the biggest, like most read stories that we've done, because it's like this very bizarre thing that's happening on Facebook, and none of the commenters seemingly have any idea that this stuff is fake. And since then, I've seen people screenshot this same type of image and post it on Twitter, post it on Instagram, post it on Threads, whatever, and be like, what the fuck is going on Facebook? Because you see this image that's like clearly AI generated and it has like 70,000 likes. So this went viral last week, Shrimp Jesus. So it is Jesus, and on the left, his arms are prawns, shrimp, I guess. And on the right, I would argue that he's a lobster, possibly, not shrimp, but I've seen shrimp, lobster, and crustacean crab Jesus, a variety. I've seen squid Jesus as well. There's some squid ones. Yeah. So there are hundreds of pages, like they're not groups, they're like fan pages, in the same way that like Vice has a page and like would post links to stories there. It's like these pages have weird names. Like this one is called Love God and Love You. Like that's the name of it.
Yeah.
And they are posting like 80 of these images per day. Like every few minutes they're posting them. And a lot of them get like 2-3 likes, and then some of them get like 80,000 likes. Like it's just like it's a huge like a content scam, more or less.
Yeah.
And these keep going viral. And every time these go viral, I see people saying like, what's going on? Why are they doing this? Like, what's happening? What is the scam here? Because it's not clear if you're just like clicking around and sort of decontextualize like what the scam is, like why people are doing this. And so researchers at Stanford went and looked into this, and I also have been looking into it for months, and we basically like know what the scam is.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the scam. The scam, it's not a new scam, but here's what the scam is. They're getting a shitload of followers.
Yeah.
And then at some point, once they get a shitload of followers, they pivot to posting links off-site. So they're driving traffic away from Facebook to websites that are filled with ads, just like tons and tons of ads.
Right.
And so it's the same scam that's always existed, where it's like they're getting pennies for every click or whatever. And then some of them are also selling products. And it's like unclear whether they are actually selling products or whether they're just like taking people's credit card information.
Mm-hmm.
But this newest story, and the reason I think that it's important is, one, it's like, okay, here's what the scam is. And then two, Facebook's algorithm is boosting these AI generated images. Like, it is not just that they exist on Facebook, it's that there is a benefit to the spammers for using this AI generated stuff. And we were able to show that in data, and we were also able to show it just in like the behavior of these things. And so I'll move away from Shrimp Jesus for 1 minute to talk about Simon Cowell, because I see you have it up.
Let's do it.
So this image here.
Also, by the way, knife emoji brought up in chat here. You said there's some of these comments, or some of the pages are called Love Jesus or Love You. Are there any pages called Jesus Christation? Because if not, that seems like a missed opportunity.
I like that. Yeah.
Maybe we can start one.
So they all have their own little niche. Like, there's some that are like tiny houses. There's some that are like AI cakes. And then, so there's this one called Minds, or called Thoughts. It's called Thoughts. That's just the name of the thing. Just
Thoughts. Thoughts in the Shakespearean sense of the word. THOUGTH. The thinking.
Yes.
Not
thinking
another
one.
Thoughts.
Not
That'd be a different YouTube page. That would take us back over to Pornhub. But yeah.
So this is not Simon Cowell. This is like a screen grab of Simon Cowell run through an AI generator. And you'll notice here, like, they have this, they have like the caption, and then you'll see the first comment is a link to a website. And if you scroll down a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
This is what it links to. And this is a site called planety.info. There's like a million different sites that they link to, but this particular one links to this website. So look at this image of Simon, and then scroll back up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not the same image.
Oh yeah, he looks ever so slightly different. I wouldn't recognize Simon Cowell if he like slapped me in the face. So, okay, it is different.
It's different. And so this is AI Simon Cowell on Facebook, and then on the website, it's just a screen grab. This is not AI. This is just a screen grab of Simon Cowell. You're gonna have to trust me on this. I unfortunately know what Simon looks like now.
Okay.
And so there's like hundreds of these, and they're taking images, running them through this AI, posting them on Facebook because they're performing better. Like, why wouldn't they just take the screen grab and put it on Facebook? Like, they're using the AI that looks slightly different.
Yeah.
And then they're putting the link in the comment, which drives to their
right.
page.
Yeah, and so there's like, so it says look, it says here's a screen grab, but the first comment says, if you want to watch the video, then click this link. Instead of posting the video on Facebook, which would be much easier for everybody, And so that's how you get everybody off of the website and go click on this thing because now you're curious.
Right. And it used to be that you just put a link on Facebook and people would click it, but now the algorithm like doesn't, it like downvotes taking people off the platform. So
I
image
see.
posts are performing better on the platform than straight up links. They're posting images, and then the comments they're driving to this website. And then if you scroll down further, like this site thought, like this is what it looks like. These are all ads. Like they're just ad after ad after ad. There's pop-ups. There's all sorts of shit. So they're just like driving off platform for this purpose. And then if you go down a little further, I have some charts and graphs.
Some Shrimp Jesus charts and graphs.
Yeah.
What is, hold on, what is this here?
This
and
is
this
just
is
what it
the
looks
link.
like. They're putting it in the comments. Yeah.
All right, charts and graphs. Where's the charts? Here we go.
So here's the charts and graphs. So this is
You're
from a
taking
tool.
this so seriously.
I know, dude. I had to figure out what's going on. So this is from a tool called CrowdTangle. And CrowdTangle lets you track how content moves around Facebook. And Facebook announced this week that it's shutting CrowdTangle down, which is no more CrowdTangle, which is very interesting. So if you look at this, November, these are like all the likes that it's getting, likes and comments on its photos, on all of its posts. So like for all this time until November, it's not getting that many. And then in December, it goes from like 250,000 interactions to like 2.2 million interactions. It just skyrockets. And if you look at Thoughts' Facebook page, which I didn't include here, but I did look at it a lot, they switched from posting screen grabs to posting AI images in December. So like this gigantic spike corresponds with them posting AI images. And I couldn't show this for Shrimp Jesus, but it's a similar situation on Shrimp Jesus. Like obviously, like if you go to that the page that is posting Shrimp Jesus, which I can try to drop in chat or is linked somewhere, probably towards the bottom. You'll see that like they're getting just a shitload of interaction on these posts.
Yeah.
And that corresponds with when they started doing these AI generated posts. And I couldn't show that for Shrimp Jesus because Facebook doesn't allow me into CrowdTangle anymore. But it's it's like obviously happening. So essentially, like long story short, what's happening is that these AI images are working. There's
the meta has shifted.
The meta has shifted, yeah, and it's going to shift again at some point, and they'll shift to it again, and that's kind of how I end the piece, because now there's 3D images of Jesus, like AI generated 3D images, and it's presumably because like AI is like the 3D images are somehow also boosted in the algorithm.
What is this golden Jesus with a helicopter? Okay, so
these are all real photos.
No,
I don't know what.
So basically, the scam is to post a bunch of garbage, not garbage, but so the scam essentially is post a bunch of these AI images, get yourself a bunch of followers, and then once you have a bunch of followers, you pivot over to trying to get people off of your site so that they'll look at ads and you'll get a few pennies per click, but that adds up, or maybe you can sell something. So that's what's happening. Is that the general gist?
Yeah, more or less. And like clearly, I mean, we haven't figured this out yet, but clearly this is all automated in some way because they're posting like complete nonsense, the same comments over and over again, and they're doing it like every like 6 minutes.
Oh, so the comments are fake too?
No, I think the comments are real.
Okay, so these are real people who are being duped.
Or just there's a lot of I think the plan with Shrimp Jesus is that it's to like offend people, because a lot of the comments are like, don't do this to Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciate, I love Jesus, but like Facebook doesn't care. A negative comment or like an angry face is treated just the same as anything else. And so it works nonetheless. And so some of them are tricking people. Some of them are so absurd that it's just like, oh, this page I don't know is doing blasphemy. I got to yell at them.
Yeah.
And it all kind of like works the same.
It all counts as engagement, which basically Facebook sees and says, hey, people are commenting on this. They must like it. Let me show it to more people. But so this is basically a big funnel that people are falling into. But you described this. And if you would do me a favor, I would like you to describe the things that are being used as the funnel, because you wrote this paragraph. And so I think you should read it. Would you do me the favor of reading this paragraph, please?
Yeah,
Jason.
I need to go back and add links because I can add links for all these. There are AI generated pages full of AI deformed women breastfeeding, tiny cows, celebrities with amputations that they do not have in real life, Jesus as a shrimp, Jesus as a collection of Fanta bottles, Jesus as sand sculpture, Jesus as a series of ramen noodles, Jesus as a shrimp mixed with Sprite bottles and ramen noodles, Jesus made of plastic bottles and posing with large-breasted AI-generated female soldiers, Jesus on a plane with AI-generated sexy flight attendants, giant golden Jesus being excavated from a river, golden helicopter Jesus, banana Jesus, coffee Jesus, goldfish Jesus, rice Jesus, any number of AI-generated female soldiers on a page called Beautiful Military, a page called Everything Skull, which is exactly what it sounds like, malnourished dogs, indigenous identity pages, beautiful landscapes, flower arrangements, wet weird cakes, etc.
Nobel Peace Prize.
Thank you.
Nobel Peace Prize for that. That is,
dude, I spend like hours just clicking through, man. It's really it's fun. I find it to be like very I don't know. Yeah, that's the Fanta. Well, I guess it's not Fanta. It's various plastic bottle trash. Trash Jesus is another one that's very popular. Trash sculpture. And then there's a lot of them that are like respect our military with like big fake cannon things, and then also just like hot women AI generated. So I think that it's just like, dude, there are people who still use Facebook probably. I'm not really one of them. But I use it for reporting. And when I scroll through there, I'm like, this platform is a wasteland. Like, it is a wasteland. It's an abandoned mall that the only thing left there are like squatters and weird businesses that you're like, how the fuck does this operate? And if you spend like any amount of time on Facebook clicking around, it feels abandoned, which is crazy because there's still billions of people who use it. And I think that for all of the attention that we give Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, it's like, I don't know, man, there's a lot of zombie shit happening on Facebook where it's just like there are abandoned accounts, like weird automated things that are happening. And I don't know whether it's going to have any sort of like impact on the election. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's like a place for scams and like weird, depressing content. And it's like, what would happen if you just like let these gigantic platforms with billions of people on them like rot? Essentially, it's like internet rot. Show the ghost dog. The ghost dog is sad.
Oh man, why am I sad? It's a little puppy with really, really well articulated hands. It's got hands. Those are not paws. That's a cute puppy, but those claws are not puppies. Oh, and she's looking at pictures of the puppy, and she's crying. And then there's the puppies in the background.
They're pretty creative. Some of them are pretty creative.
She looks really sad, and the ghost puppy and the comment. Oh man, dogs whisper from heaven. This is criminal, man. They're trying to get people who miss their dog. The page name is called Dogs Whisper from Heaven. And the caption says, only great people will like this photo. This dog about to go play basketball. This dog about to like fix a computer. Those are hands.
Yeah.
That is disturbing. And she's got what is this little bowl? She's got like some rosemary in a bowl next to her. I don't understand what's on her bed.
I don't
A
know.
brass bowl.
I didn't notice that, but yeah, that the bowl is good. And then the 52,000 likes, dude. 52,000 likes.
52. This is as you're describing this, I'm realizing that I think I have an idea of how one could do this. Like you just get Chat GPT, just say, "Hey, make a bunch of here's a prompt that I'm going to later give to DALL-E. Create 25 different versions of this prompt, and then you feed that in to DALL-E. So like Shrimp Jesus, give me 25 variations on the Shrimp Jesus theme with trash or something, and then just have DALL-E spit out a bunch of these things, and then this is, man, it's all attention. The attention economy. Amazing. If you love Jesus, press the thumb below. These are
ads that they're running too. So it's like some of them are running ads. This is just a screenshot of the recent photos on the Shrimp Jesus page. You'll see like there's various Shrimp Jesuses here at the top left, and then it's just sand sculptures of Jesus. And I don't know. A lot of them do use Jesus because I think they're like playing into like only true believers will like this. Like that's
right.
what a lot of the like comments are. And then I think some of it is like we're posting blasphemy.
Yeah.
And then people interact with it.
It's like,
I don't know. I find it endlessly fascinating, even though I know that these are just being spit out.
yeah,
Kind of with no rhyme or reason, but
yeah. 26 images of AI generated black child in slums with Jesus made of plastic bottles or aluminum cans. If you want to find a foreign adversary trying to spread something on social media, this is it. This is it.
Yeah.
This is incredible. All right, man. I am. That honestly took a lot out of me. Look,
yeah,
nothing against Jesus, but I don't know about Shrimp Jesus. I feel like there's something in Leviticus that says we shouldn't be doing that, but whatever. Right. What are we gonna do? But anyway, man, what a tour through the wonderful website that is 404media.co. Yeah.
Thanks for having me. It's good to see everyone. I noticed a lot of I know a lot of familiar faces in the comments, so glad folks have kept up watching you, and it's good to chat again.
Hell yeah, man. But yeah, so in case anybody has not, you can do what I did, which was subscribe to 404 because the stuff is genuinely incredible, and it's not even this stuff that, like, if you want to be really lazy, you can just wait until other outlets link to your stuff and cover it and say, as reported on 404, because I'm honestly seeing that a lot more recently. I'm seeing it a lot more on, Washington Post or a bunch of other places, and halfway down the page, I'll see first reported on 404 Media. So if you'd like to read it first, maybe, and honestly, probably best, 404 is not a bad move.
Yeah, check us out. Also, please, we have a podcast. I'm trying to push people to our podcast because, I don't know. We don't have that many listeners to our podcast. So it's the 404 Media Podcast. It's got a very, very creative name, but, it's free. 404 Media can be free if you want, but we have a subscriber tier as well. So check it out.
Yeah. And if you ever want to write your own Freedom of Information Act requests, they also do workshops on there, which I've popped in, and I will probably use some of the stuff I learned in there. But anyway, yeah, good stuff. So please, Paul is asking if you need music.
We have some music, but we probably should update it soon. So possibly, I'll be in touch.
Yeah, you need any terrible lo-fi?
I think we have some like cyber-ish music, but it is stock music, so we should get some
cyber stuff. Oh yeah, dude, don't get stock stuff. Get custom stuff. Make some stuff. But yeah, man. Well, please, Hopefully I could have you back at some time in the future, if that is
Of
amenable
course.
to you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, man. But yeah, everyone, please, once again, I'm a paste it in the comment section, the chat, 44media.co. Go check them out. And yeah, hopefully we'll get to have you on again soon. But until then, thanks so much for coming through, man.
Yeah, thank you. Take care. See you soon.
All right, easy.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
There we go. That was a long one. I kept him on there for a long time. Thanks everyone for sticking around.